Okay, let's talk about a very common issue that I see in the pitching motion from the majority of the players that I coach. Most players tend to suck the club in too much under plane with a shut club face. First of all, if the club is too much under plane, you're going to tend to bottom out too much behind the golf ball. And if the club face is too shut, the leading edge is too exposed, which will cause that club head to dig too much into the turf. If you hit behind the golf ball with a club head that digs, you're not going to be very consistent around the green. So we're going to get those players to swing the club more on plane with more loft on the club face where the toe is pointing more up towards the sky instead of out to the right. If you can do that, first of all, the club is going to fall more directly on top of the golf ball instead of behind it. And if we have more loft on the club face, we're going to expose the bounce better, which helps to move that club through the turf more effectively without having it digging too much. So there are a couple of things we have to focus on to make those adjustments. First of all, a player that sucks the club head in too much with a shut club face is going to have too much bow on their left wrist, where the logo of the glove is pointing too much down towards the ground, okay? If we can create some angle here instead, we're going to be able to move the club head out more on plane and add more loft to the club face, okay? So instead of having a bowed left wrist, we want to create more angle where the logo of the glove is pointing more out and up, okay? And another thing we need to focus on is to make sure we don't have too much forearm roll where the elbow moves too much off the body in the takeaway, causing that club head to move in too much. Instead, feel like the elbow points more towards the body and feel like it moves closer to the belly to get the club head out more instead of having an elbow that moves away from you, causing the club head to move in, okay? So feel like you have more angle in the left wrist and feel like the elbow is moving more closer to the belly, okay? Then we can get the club head to move more out. A couple of drills you can do to get a player to feel those moves is to first of all place a barrier. In this post, I put myself here to prevent the player from sucking the club head too much in. If you don't have a crazy Swede, you can use an alignment stick, put it in the same angle as the shaft, and then hit a couple of shots, making sure you don't hit that in the takeaway, okay? Make sure that you have angle in the left wrist too, so that the toe is pointing more up. Another drill you can do is to place it directly behind the golf ball and tell the player to feel like they trace that in the takeaway, okay? So that they don't suck the club in too much. Instead, feel like they trace that in the takeaway while having more angle in the left wrist, okay? Those are a couple of ways you can get a player to move away from having an inside takeaway with a shut face to swinging more on plane with more loft on the club face to become more consistent. Give that a go.